So the Grand Archive DLC just dropped, and this is everything that I know about the new DLC. So I did play around a little bit with a couple different builds. I call it the Navi Divine Nation, and yes, our capital is Pandora, and we are a species of water creatures who harnessed the power of amoebas and other creatures as our navy. Here is Bubbles. Now, immediately when I started this game, I realized that the cost for these ships is very high. Like, comparatively to alloys for food for a single Corvette, it's 7 times more expensive. And if you look at the larger class vessels, like this cruiser or this battleship class, it's 6,000 food. Now, just for the feasibility of storage, it's hard to make a lot of these. Now, the really awesome thing is you can make space amoebas, and given enough time, they will actually turn into battleships. So that's cool. You can build a military and then it'll just grow. This function is seen in the space fauna growth stage. So as you see, they will continue to grow until they can't grow anymore, and then they'll stop. This is the Vivarium. You can get creatures in here that you capture with a gravity snare or your science vessel, and you can then harvest them for DNA in here. They also will breed in here. Now, something to note that's really important is I felt really hesitant at first to call these guys, like to kill them. But once you do, you get their DNA and the ability to create them. So once you get a legendary or like an exceptional creature, you should call it. It takes a long time for these guys to breed, and it is honestly, it's just faster to capture them. So I would turn on auto calling if I was you, and you can call below breeding minimums. It's fine. Different things produce different resources. So the space amoebas produce physics research. The Tianki produce food, which is nice. So you can build more ships. And lastly, if you call the Cutholoids, you get minerals. I don't have any Cutholoids right now. And you can also capture the void worms, which I found to be very useful, and you'll see why in a minute. Something really cool that they've added in is this new capture space fauna automation setting. And so you can just tell your ships to go around and catch whatever, and they will do that. So he just sent out a gravity snare, which is separate to the science ship. If we look at it, it is not attached. So this is something that the science ships manufacture and shoot out, and it costs alloys and energy. And it will then pursue whatever creature you're wanting to capture. It starts out being able to capture 3 things. So it's going to come over here and probably capture 3 of those smaller things. Forms a big bubble around them, and okay, it only captured 1. Sometimes it's not successful. You can capture up to 5, I believe. And now if I go to the Vivarium, which is in Discoveries, he will be in here. Worth noting, anytime that you get a new weapons research thing, you're going to be researching that weapon for your bioships and for your metal ships. Something important to know, if you start with the Beastmaster Civics, you are not going to want to make metal ships because you're going to have a 200% increase to cost. Artificial ships use 200%. That's not just double, that's 4 times. So if you have a single Corvette, that's going to look like a cruiser. It is really useful to start out with gravity snares. That's the most important thing. Gravity snares, being able to capture things in the beginning, that's what makes this Civic useful. Now for this playthrough, I started with the Primal Calling Origin. This one isn't super related. It just makes it faster for you to capture space fauna, but you don't need it. I did another playthrough where I didn't have this origin, and I was able to get just as many space fauna. The Wildlife Ranch is okay. It's just another place to get amenities. It just does a lot of things together. So it's just, if you get this, you're just going to want to build it on all your planets because it is useful. You get some modifiers. So if you are planning on doing Beastmaster Civic and you want to actually do this as your military and not use mercenary enclaves or Federation fleets, and just to confirm, mercenary enclave fleets, like the ones you rent out, they will not count against the 200% naval cap usage. So you can still rent a fleet without it blowing up your naval capacity. So you don't have to go down this option, but if you do, it increases the damage that they do and their armor, their speed, the Vivarium, gravity snare cooldown. So yeah, it is useful for that essence. For this build, I tried to go with anglers so that I would get food and consumer goods. I wouldn't recommend it personally. I would just say if you want to do this, go with agrarian idle. Be a peaceful farmer empire that uses space amoebas as their war machine. It's pretty fun. I personally found the Vivarium to be a little underwhelming. I like it, but I don't know what to use it for. Once I get an exceptional, creature, there's not really a point for me to get anything else, because as you can see, if I go to my beast port, I can make everything. I can make the Cutholoids, which also are very expensive on minerals, 5,000 for a battleship, quite a bit. It's a lot more than if you were doing the Crisis and you wanted to make a cruiser. So that is something to think about. They are pretty strong though, I will give you that. They're good. They actually fight differently than your other ships. Like they can actually eat ships, which is cool, and they can also chuck asteroids and stuff. Okay, so this is my other playthrough style that I decided to test out, and it's pretty fun. I decided to be robots, and that way we wouldn't actually eat any food ourselves, and we could use it all for our creatures. However, I soon realized I didn't actually have the ability to grow food. I didn't actually have any buildings. So instead, because I chose the megacorp path, I just put fast food districts like everywhere, fast food chains everywhere, which if you think about it, my entire amoeba army is made out of fast food, which is kind of funny. I made a couple of space amoebas in the beginning, and by the time that I needed a larger fleet, they grew up into the amoeba mothers. And that was actually really helpful, because then I didn't have to make new ships, and I had a navy that kind of upgraded with me. Cutholoids are pretty cool because they can do this thing where they like squirrel away. He's gonna dance around for a minute, and then he's actually gonna go hide inside his rock. See, like he just kind of sinks in there like that, hey? And he'll just stay like that till you use him again. And then he has this really cool weapon. It's called the Large Devouring Maw. This creature can engulf a target smaller than this Cutholoid, so the bigger ones are more useful. And they're either consumed or commandeered. What does it mean by commandeered? Are we getting ships from this? Okay, so we actually have a Void Worm, 88,000 fleet power. At this point in the game, 2264, like, you're not going to see any empires that can face that kind of fleet power. And so at first, I was really concerned. I thought I was going to lose all my planets, and I saw them everywhere. Like, they were spreading all over the galaxy, and worse than that, they were over here. Like, that's where their host planets were. And so I didn't know how to deal with this, but I noticed that I had a lot of them in my Vivarium all of a sudden. I have one right now, but a little later on, I had a lot more. And that's because I had a couple spaceships, a couple science ships on automatically capturing these guys. So what you can do is, yes, you can't enter the system. However, you can tell them to launch a gravity snare. So how they work is they're going to fly over to the next system over. And then once they're inside, they're going to actually just make a gravity snare, and they're going to shoot it out. Okay, so the snare enters the system. It's going to fly over here. It might capture one of them. And so what you're going to really want here is just a lot of these things. You're going to want a lot of snares being shot out. Make like 7 or 8 science ships, have them on patrol duty. Yeah, there you go. It just captured 2 of them. So now if I go to my Vivarium, we're going to see 2 void worms just hanging around, and you get some pretty nice research from them too. And they'll make more. Once you called them, as I said before, that's when you get the ability to make them, which is pretty sick. So if you go over to your beast port, it's going to be a bunch of different resources, some rocks and some food. Okay, moving on to like the last main thing with this DLC, the Grand Archive. I was a little bit confused about how this worked at first. So you're going to start finding like minor relics, kind of. There's 3 different tiers: Xenogeology, Galactic History, and Aesthetic Wonders. And you want to activate these. Like, you don't want them sitting around. They are useful. So if we go to a later save, something I actually found out that you can do is you can just go pester all of the AI for these like minor relics. And they will sell them to you as long as you're like kind of friendly with them. And so like my whole empire right now is very friendly. We're Fanatic Xenophile, and we kind of set ourselves up as like a curator empire of sorts. And so if you go to my collection right now, I have quite a few things running, and all of these buffs are all running at the same time. So if you just look at the bottom here, we're getting 10.8 extra amenities, 3.1 stability, more amenities. If you get this DLC, do not undervalue these minor relics. And you can get a lot of them, and you can have them all running permanently. They don't cool down. Don't sell them. Like, literally, there's no point in selling them. They are worth so much more just to have them constantly running. Like, for example, this one, Electric Life, 8.7% more energy from jobs. That is so valuable. Now, it is definitely helpful that I'm running a empire that is strong on energy, because it is costing me 181 energy a month to run them. However, just the total boons that they're applying to my empire is crazy. Like, I'm I'm getting so many amenities just from specimens. 15. That's like, I could probably deconstruct some of these holo theaters, because there's also a new tradition tree here called archivism. Frontier archaeology allows your science ships to excavate archaeological sites in unowned systems. Yes. So you're going to want to rush exploration or discovery and archivism, and then you're going to just be able to send all of your science ships out and get all the relics, like literally all of them. Combine that with like astral rifts, because you get quite a few relics from that too. Early game, it's a bit slow, not gonna lie, but late game, once you're starting to collect and fill up your Grand Archive and your just major relics as well, it really is game changing. It will allow your empire to do things that no one else can. It's also, in my opinion, the way to play tall. Like if you want to play tall, you fill up this as soon as you can, because the buffs here are crazy. Like again, it'll be really helpful with playing wide too, but like this is needed if you're going to be playing tall. Okay, so we also have a few other ones, just increased archaeology excavation. We get some more diplomatic weight per specimen, which is actually really useful. More production of each specimen, which is really useful. So they're just going to be generating more. And then we get exhibition policies, which is cool. And then you also get a random specimen, not really that useful. Okay, so it looks like we can focus specific areas. So we can do an equal focus and you not have anything, or you can choose one of the 3 areas to have an increased output in, which is crazy. That is really good. One thing to note that is very important is that you can't activate any of these items without creating the Grand Archive. Now, the Grand Archive is actually really easy to make. It costs like 500 alloys, and you can build it like pretty soon. As soon as you start getting specimens in here, you're going to get prompted and asked if this is a worthy endeavor, and you're going to say yes, it is. And you're going to build one right on your home planet here, and it's just pretty sick. It looks quite cool, and you can also see when you click on it, all of the boosts that you're getting. Builds I would recommend. I actually really liked this playthrough. I'm playing as a megacorp of robots, so we're getting all the money that we need to purchase specimens. I'll show you a little clip. As you can see, I'm able to just purchase specimens from everybody, and nobody has specimens left to sell me. I literally bought every specimen in the galaxy, and I'm equivalent at this point to the curator order, which I find really funny. And they have nothing to offer us because we just have everything. We are the new curators. Okay, last thing to go through, the domestication tradition tree. So upon unlocking it, you get some more farmer output, which is really useful. You need that extra food, and you unlock a new agenda, galactic trawling. Let's just see what that agenda is. This is also the agenda you get for completing the archivism tradition tree. Astute observation, so you just get more specimen output, up to 15% more, and a higher chance of finding an archaeology site on surveys. Galactic trawling is, again, this one is really useful for when you're having a voidworm plague. Looking back at it, we see you get a max capacity increase of 25%, and you also get a higher capture chance, which is useful. This one means that you get more from calling them, you get more resources from zookeepers. Something interesting I found was the curators actually offered me this Holo Museum of Wonders, and they offered me not just 1 but 2 of these. So they noticed that I had some specimens, and they wanted me to be able to show them off more in a Holo Museum. They also provide some cool jobs, which just makes some research and some unity. So just useful to have. Bio repurposing, so you're gonna get some more stuff for defeating space fauna, depending if that's the route you want to go. You get metabolic regulation, which means that you get more assembly speed, which is nice, or for both your ships and your pops, which is useful. And then you also get more damage, so you're going to want that if you're going to be going with that origin too. Lastly, I know this question is all on your minds. Can we clone the Tianki Matriarch or the Space Dragon? And unfortunately, the answer is no. You can, however, recover its genetic material, but it can only be used to create a mutation for space fauna, increasing their armor and hull strength. Did you buy this DLC? I would recommend it, especially because of the Grand Archive. Like, just its use alone for your empire, how much more powerful it'll make you, and also how fun the collection system is. I was a little bit confused by it at first, and it felt a little wonky, but I've really gotten used to it quickly. And it's really cool being able to see that you found something on a certain planet at a certain date from a certain place, and to tie in all the events from your exploring the galaxy. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already, go watch my latest video on the Cosmic Storms DLC. I played for 800 years to the year 3000, and it was a really eventful, fun playthrough. So if you're not going to get the DLC yourself, I would recommend just checking it out. You'll see most of what happens in that DLC in that video.